if God was going to come and work, if the Father was going to come and work by the Holy Spirit with the believers that gathered in those days, the believers had to be awake to the Spirit of God. I know in 1 Corinthians 12, I love the King James for one good reason. There's several reasons, but one of the reasons I like the King James is because when words were added to give meaning in English from Hebrew or Greek, the words that were added are italicized. That means you can't find a Greek or a Hebrew word for that word that was added to give the flow of meaning. So I think it's important because then you can see what was added to give the flow of understanding in language. For example, in 1 Corinthians chapter 12 here, reading from the King James Version, I'll just read it to you. Verse 1. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not that you be ignorant. So I guess we need to talk about it. Because if you don't talk about it, you'll be ignorant, correct? But the word gifts is italicized. And literally from Greek into English, it says, now concerning spiritual brethren, I would not that you be ignorant. Things that are spiritual. There's a difference between you and the next person walking down the street. You look alike. You're called humans, male and female. But not everyone is spiritual. Or if they are, they're motivated by another spiritual kingdom in how they think, speak, or act. That is not what God intended. They are still spiritual, but they're not spiritual before God correct. You see this? But when you became born again, the Spirit of God joins you, spirit to spirit, and you became a new creature. Something happened. You're not the same person. You look like the rest of humans, but you're different. So if we became, because the other people walking down the street out here that are unsaved, separated from God, not born again, as they walk down the street, you can't tell them from you, can you? Until you see and hear what they do, how they speak, how they act, and you can tell the difference. But you're of a different order now, and you're supposed to think, speak, and act different. Is that true? And we're to represent and demonstrate a living God. You know, Jesus is very clear. He said, you've seen me, you've seen the Father. That does not mean that Jesus was the Father. It means that he said, the things that I do, I saw my Father doing. The things that I say, I heard my Father saying. So Jesus said, I am the express image of a correct spiritual being in the earth, and I'm a true representation of the image of the Father and how he thinks, speaks, and acts. Are your ways his ways? So I want to challenge you here this evening. Don't think so little of yourself. Your enemy wants to suppress you. He wants you to be afraid of those that are not sons of God. Those people walking down the street that are not born again are not sons and daughters of God. You are. Now, God considers that all of mankind should become his sons and daughters. John 3:16 would establish the Father's mind about all humans. For God so loved some humans, or all of them. You see, that he gave his only begotten Son. So we have this opportunity to understand spiritual. You are a spirit being. You have a soul, and you live in a body. Your soul is the bridge between the external world and the internal world. And anything that is a spirit being can speak to you, spirit to spirit, whether it's the Holy Spirit or another kingdom. That's when Ephesians 6 it says your battle is not with other humans or yourself, but with what? An invisible kingdom that wants to influence you, spirit to spirit. And you're to know the difference between which voice you're listening to. And any voice that you are listening to from within, any thoughts you have that are different than what the Bible teaches, is inferior thinking. And God's mind is superior thinking. Would you agree to that? So if you're going to be a spiritual being, you must prepare to have superior thinking. It doesn't mean that you're superior in terms of being like you're too important. Not that way. But you have to understand that how you think has to be different than non-spiritual beings. So when you have feelings like you don't want to forgive, you have a choice, don't you? If you're a non-spiritual being, or even if you are a spiritual being, you could slide back into the carnal man, the old nature, and you could practice unforgiveness anytime you want, can't you? But because you have the Spirit of God, because you are a correct spiritual being, when you're tempted not to forgive, you decide to forgive. Is that what you do? Then you're a correct spiritual being. And you're superior in your thinking. And that attitude you have of forgiving others is really good for your health.